There we are. What's up,
All right.
fella?
What's up? What's up?
How you doing?
Oh, dude, I'm good. I miss you guys. I'm just like, I don't know if I miss you guys, really. I just miss the mountains.
Yeah.
That's fair.
What'd you think about that hike, man? Now that you've had a couple, or you've had 1 week to reflect on it.
I thought it was too easy. I thought you guys needed to pick up your slack,
Oh man.
keep up a little bit. No, but it was funny because I told the story. I was telling somebody the story. I was like, I've never been out there hiking in the dark. I've never been out there in the morning. Never been on this trail, and they put me out in front. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, just go fast so you can't be scared, so they don't know that you're scared. So no animals can get you. Because I was inside, man. I was freaking out, man. I was freaking out. I was like, there's moose out here. There's cougars. They put me out front. They're like, oh, well, if somebody's gonna get eaten, it's gonna be the guy out in front.
Dude, well, I'm glad you finally picked up on the strategic move. It was we knew that there was a lot of bull moose activity, so we wanted you to take the lead. If we needed to turn around and run, we were already a couple steps ahead.
Yeah, did a couple steps ahead. I mean, I definitely knew that right away. Like, oh, you're gonna lead. I'm like, oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, part of the process. No, but I was telling Jared, I'm like, man, that just makes me want to move out there so much. Like, you feel at home on the mountains. You feel good. Like, hiking with you guys, spending some dude time and having some conversations. For me, guys, like when I am moving, I don't know if this is the same for you, but when I'm moving and I'm outside, like what's going on in my head is all good stuff for the most part. Like I'm positive about myself. I got ideas coming left and right. I'm getting inspired. Like what more could you ask for? I mean, to stay safe. So I just really appreciate you guys taking me on that hike. And then I also appreciate that we got to create this opportunity out of that and seeing what else is possible. So I appreciate you guys. You guys just hit another one. Apparently you, Cody, I don't know if Jared went with you on that one or not.
Yeah, so yesterday, Kaylee and I, so my girlfriend and I, we hit our 22nd 14er together. But yesterday it was 11 miles, 2 14ers, 1 13er with a class 3 traverse in between one of the 14ers and the 13ers, which was great. So my girlfriend and I, there's 58 total 14ers in Colorado, and Kaylee and I have accomplished and successfully summited 22 of them. So one of our lifelong goals is to summit all 58 together. So it was cool to tack another one on board, but diving into what you mentioned about that self-reflection period. So yesterday we were on the trail just before 5, and the first hour and a half of that hike, there was so much available time for self-reflection and for I mean it's essentially active meditation in the most beautiful scenery possible. And so personally, that's why I've always been drawn to hiking. I think yesterday was that was my 34th peak above 12,000 feet. So I'm just going to keep that number climbing. I don't necessarily have an overall goal for summits over 12,000 feet, 100, 150, 200. I'm just gonna let that number keep climbing as best as possible. Yeah, but there's
you're artistic. I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, and I was about to dive into that. So it is unbelievably inspiring for the creative process, for not only and I don't look at the creative process just from a musical perspective or an artistic perspective. Like I look at it from an entrepreneurial, from health and wellness, just from an overall, how can I be creative with my own self-growth in the way that I live my life, and how it's essentially how can I paint my life in the most positive and beneficial way possible. And the mountains have inspired my creative process for the past for the past 8 years. So it's a huge core component. And we had talked about this while we were hiking last week a little bit. And so I had moved to Colorado in 2012, lived there for 5 years. I was fully immersed in the mountains, and they truly became a core part of my identity. And living in Dayton was the eye-opening experience for me to look inwards and realize, wow, I need mountains in my life. Like they truly have intertwined themselves within my personality, within my goals. And there's truly something special about them, man. And obviously the mountains aren't for everyone. Colorado isn't for everyone. But for the people that do find that excitement and that inspiration, like it just becomes a necessity. It really does.
Absolutely. So 2020, well, first of all, you guys just moved out there, right? I don't know, how long has it been?
A year.
A year?
A little over a year.
And then 2020 happens, right? All of what it happens. So you mentioned entrepreneurship and you mentioned music. And so for some of the people who don't know who you guys are, Cryztal Grid, I was going to put you guys' Instagram handle on there, but I don't know what it is specifically. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. What has 2020 taught you guys as artists, as people? Obviously, you have to have some adaptability, some flexibility. How are you guys adapting? How are you being flexible? Are you being flexible? Just kind of give me the 2020 lowdown of like expectations of 2020 versus reality 2020, and what's probably like not like the doom and gloom side of it, but what's got you excited? What have you realized through 2020 that's got you more excited or more focused? Because we were talking on the mountain, you guys are just like, hey, we got to take advantage of the opportunity. And you guys are those types of people, the people I want to surround myself with, people that say, it is what it is. What are we going to do now? And so just kind of elaborate a little bit on some shifts you've made, some realizations you might have had through this 2020 process.
Go for it.
Yeah. So at least in my mind, the theme of 2020 is diversify. So when we moved out here, we had a very specific mission. We were going to basically attack the music market in Denver and play as many shows as possible, get in front of as many people as possible, and show them what Cryztal Grid is about. And obviously, we did play a couple shows this year. We went back to Ohio, and we did a little 2-show stint back in Ohio at the end of February. And then as soon as we came back, that's when, all the shit hit the fan and everything got locked down. And so that's kind of like when all the shit, obviously in the whole world, that's when the shift started happening. But it definitely changed our plan. And so we had to think about what we wanted to do, because we still have a mission, right? We still want to become full-time musicians. That's still the dream. But the avenue of Cryztal Grid, at least in the how we were going to go about it and our initial move out here, that, it had to change. So we decided that diversifying like the income streams would be the best viable option. And so we started to create side projects. And so Cody you okay about talking about your job? So Cody got furloughed for a couple months, and that's when like all the ideas started flowing. And Cody started a side project called Summit One, and I'll let you talk all about that. But and then we decided to create a couple other side projects in ambient and meditation music. So we've got a couple different avenues where we're creating different styles of music, music as a product, trying to get those Spotify streams and whatnot. So if you want to talk about Summit One and what you've been doing.
Yeah. So Jared was 100% correct on we had a very singular mission and a singular vision, and then 2020 happened. And so for the quarantine, it was that paradigm shift, because we had just got done playing those 2 shows in Ohio. We were ready to come back to Denver and continue to hone in the set and play that set as much as possible. Boom, quarantine happened. And I don't necessarily remember even having like a day or a couple days of negativity. Like it was just that initial switch of, at least for me, I saw the quarantine as an opportunity to be in total control of my time. So initially, the business that I worked for shut down for 2 weeks, and I wasn't actually furloughed. We just couldn't work, just because the business couldn't legally operate. And so I was looking back through my journals, and there was it was sometime in March, and it was like, all right, man, you have 2 full weeks where you have total control of your time. What are you going to do with it? And that 2 weeks turned into 3 months. And so I looked at it from the lens of optimization, diversification, and then monetization. So looking at it from optimization, it was how can I be as healthy as possible and have my body and my mental capacity run at the highest RPM levels absolutely possible. And so it was dialing in a specific diet, dialing in an intense workout plan, working on meditation, and trying to combine all of those with the overall objective of being able to be as productive as possible. So being able to wake up at 3:34, 4:35 in the morning and just hustle all day on, and from a time management perspective, how can I utilize every second of my day to make moves? And then that leads to diversification. So with Cryztal Grid, we could have spent those 3 months creating an album. Like that could have, there's 100 different possibilities and avenues that we could have taken, but we decided to launch several side projects, because leading to that third and final piece, it's monetization. It's how can you move from the creation process, 1, create your art, but then 2, sell your art. How can you figure out ways to monetize the art that you're creating? And so the 3 months during quarantine, they were arguably one of the best 3 month section, the best season I've ever had in my entire life. It truly was. I was working 14 to 18 hour days. It's probably the healthiest I've ever been. It's some of the best art that I've ever created. And as far as self-reflection and learning about my personal process, my body, my energy levels, it was like a 3 month science experiment for optimization, which of course leads to artisticness and entrepreneurship and all those different avenues. So I know a lot of people have a pretty negative perspective on 2020, and a lot of people were negatively affected by 2020, and I 100% understand that. But for me personally, in my life, it was just one of the grandest opportunities to spend my time how I wanted to spend my time.
Yeah, and I think that's the luxury that a lot of people, obviously for those high school seniors, those college athletes, people who've lost their job, that's a lot of shit happening. And then it's like, how do you take that pile of shit and turn it into something? And then there's the opposite side, is like, hey, my life hasn't really been impacted as far as like, I'm safe, I'm secure, I can pay my bills, I'm good. Now what am I going to create from that? I think I just admire those people who go after it and say, okay, what's important now? What can I do now? It's kind of interesting though, because it's maybe counterintuitive to me, or not counterintuitive to me, but in my mind, people in the industry that you guys are in, doing the music that you guys are doing, right? Music industry, electric music shows, it seems that healthy diet, workout, and meditation, those seem like the complete opposite of what's going on in that type of industry. So where does the inspiration, obviously I know from a productivity and from a body, but what did you guys get in your mind and say, this is what we have to do? We can't focus on, getting shit-faced and partying and all that lifestyle. Maybe you guys do, I don't know. But we've got to focus on this, because that's what's going to make our product the best. And then the second part of that question, the first part of the question, what is your product? What makes you guys, Cryztal Grid, so unique? I've seen you guys live, fun as fuck, man. It's so fun. But what makes you guys unique as Cryztal Grid? Obviously, you can't do shows right now, but what makes you guys unique on top of diet, meditation, and workout being a priority in your life? That's a big question.
So what makes Cryztal Grid unique is we combine live instrumentation on top of a traditional DJ set. So our set is basically structured the same way as any other DJ set would be, but we add live saxophone and live drums over top of the music. So when someone comes to see our performance, it's more like seeing a band rather than just watching a DJ. So there's a lot more interaction. There's also two of us, so there's more going on the stage, and we bring a lot of energy into our show, and our show is very structured to involve the crowd, get them engaged in everything that we're doing. Super high energy, and that's where the diet and human optimization comes in. Part of our brand is bringing that energy, and if we are tired and gassed on stage and sweaty and gross, that's not, we're not giving it our best. So we decided that we were going to get in really good shape and use that to our advantage and let that be a part of our brand, because there's comparatively there's a lot of DJs that are pretty sedentary, that we just wanted to look a certain part, and we wanted to give a certain performance, and that's what it takes to do that, like that level of fitness and being in that bodily shape. You got anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, going back to uniqueness, so the way that I think about it is, so it's the modern day traditional DJ environment mixed with the classic rock live show element. Having that rock star crazy mentality on stage, and like Jared said, being able to go on there for an hour and dance around and be crazy and just have fun. And one of my goals when I'm on stage is to be the most active person in the building. It's like if I see somebody dancing extremely hard in the crowd, I want to match their energy levels and then exceed their energy levels. I want to be going harder than anybody else there. And of course, there's that human optimization piece, and then essentially going back to the goals of climbing 58 mountains. We're currently training for a marathon. At least for me, without working out, without physical activity, like I would be crazy. I really would. It's arguably the most important part of my day. I literally don't know how I would be as a human being without working out. And I think some of that comes from just an internal competitiveness for me to beat my own times, to lift more weight, to climb more mountains. And so that's a daily drive, and being able to infuse that characteristic and that mentality with art is, I suppose it's probably a unique way of looking at it, but at the same time, it's just a necessity, and it just has to happen.
Well, you guys got this. Go ahead.
I forgot to add the part where we're into mountain sports, so it helps to be in shape. So
helps to be out in Colorado by the mountains too.
True. Yeah.
There. Well, the interesting part for me as like an outsider looking in, like you guys are doing things that I just don't see a lot of people in your industry doing. One is the health piece. Two is like treating it like a business, right? Like your mindset, the branding, the approach, the strategy. I remember one conversation that we had was just about picking and choosing where you guys even play your shows, and making sure that you guys are going in accordance to your thing. And I'm curious. It's like I'm a behind the scenes guys. I want to know why you guys do what you do. Like that's me. I'm a geek. Like I just feel like you guys were in the back room, like strategizing one time. Like, hey, what's our approach as Cryztal Grid, and what are we going to do as branding? Like, I just don't see that from a lot of people who are in this industry, like taking this shit seriously and having a lot of fun. Before I get into that, like the energy part is like, yes, you guys bring the fucking energy. Like being to your guys' show is just fun. It's so fun. It's I have to just throw that out there. But like, so you have this entrepreneurship, you have this like brand and this personality of like health, and then you have the actual product of the music and stuff. It's like, where does that inspiration come from? And like, you know, what are some of the conversations you guys had as like getting started? Like, and then where are you guys going? Where is Cryztal Grid going, especially now in 2020?
Wow, that was a lot of questions.
I'm excited, man. I feel like I feel like we got a time constraint. I got to ask all my questions. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Oh shit. Which one to answer? Yeah. So I going back to like the strategy when we first started. So Cody and I both come from a marketing background. I've started several businesses. I'm a little bit older than Cody, so I've been around doing things a little longer. And so I have that experience of starting businesses, seeing them fail and starting them over again and seeing them fail again. So I think, I mean, we have this collective dream. Like we want to become full-time musicians. We want to perform. We want to put our art out into the world. And that comes with with responsibility. And so knowing what it takes to get to that pro level, you have to be serious about it. You have to have a plan. You have to treat it like a business, because you're essentially creating a product, and you're also providing a service. We're entertainers. So, and the most successful entertainers treat it like a business, and their product is, their entertainment, or their music rather. And so that's where all that comes from. And when we first sat down, we and started strategizing what Cryztal Grid was going to be and what it was going to look like in the brand and the vision, we mapped all of this out in the beginning, and we knew exactly what we wanted to be and what we wanted to look like in the brand, because that's what you do when you start a business, right? Like you have to know what your logo is going to be. You got to know, your mission and vision and your core values and your mantras and whatnot. And so we actually built I think it was a 6-page business plan before we even released our first track to the world. So I mean, we've had our shit together since day one, and it's mainly because we're serious about it. This is something that we want to see happen, and those are the steps that it takes to make it happen.
Yeah, well, and it's organization, and then once again looking at the artistic and creative process, not only from that music perspective, but from that entrepreneurial perspective. The fact that a business plan was created before the first track was even released. Like, we looked at that business plan as a piece of art. The branding, everything about the business is artistic. Business itself is artistic. And so just being able to intertwine all of those together, and like Jared said, it's also a necessity. Without a strategy, without a brand, you don't have a successful product. You have to learn how to be able to sell your art. So that's and we both have fun thinking about business, especially from a marketing perspective. Marketing is creative work. Branding is creative work. Operating a business is creative work. So I think us enjoying it is a crucial aspect as far as the business of Cryztal Grid, because there's probably a lot of musicians that really do not want to crunch numbers or think about marketing or think about branding, which I totally get. We're just fortunate enough to be passionate about all of those different aspects.
Awesome. So Jared, you talked about a little bit of failures, right? You said start a business, fail a business, learn something, start a business, fail. What through this process, what year did you guys start? What year did you guys say, okay, this is official, we are Cryztal Grid? How long has it been since you guys started that?
3 years.
3 years. All right. So along that process, you probably had an expectation of what things were going to be like. Obviously, like we talked about earlier, with 2020, you had an expectation. But already in this business, what failures have you guys had that maybe you've grown from? Failures, learning experiences, whatever you guys want to label them as. What are some of those failures that you guys might have experienced? Or Jared, for you, like, what are some of the things that you obviously learned outside of business that through those failures you guys are here today doing the things you want to make, the choices you had?
Yeah. So I think again with the multiple question.
Should I keep it singular? Should I keep one focus?
I mean, I have a one-track mind, so and
now you're getting a peek inside of what's actually going on in my head. It's like this all damn day.
yeah.
Oh,
So, yeah, as far as we'll say it wasn't necessarily a failure, but kind of like a realization, because we saw some early success within our first year, and it kind of blew our heads up a little bit, and we thought that, yeah, we got it, we did everything right, we're going to make it. And then after that first year, we kind of plateaued for a while, and that was a huge. Well, what I'm getting at is it takes work, it takes consistency, and you can't give up. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned in this project, because I thought because we had a really good brand and we had all the structure in the beginning, and we met the right people, and we saw some really good success. Like we played 2 major music festivals in Ohio within our first year. And so we were like, yeah, we fucking got this. Like, we're good. And that's not how the story played out. Like we've learned that we still have to put our time in like everybody else. We still have to grind it out, reach our 10,000 hours or what, like our mastery level of our craft and whatnot. And so that's been my biggest lesson through this whole journey, which has been different than starting other businesses in the past, because it's usually there's not so much at stake. Like we're trying to become the 1% of musicians that reach a certain threshold where they become full-time and they have some success. And there's a lot of musicians that never reach that level. Whereas when you start a business like co-working space in the city of Dayton, Ohio, you're already the first of its kind, and its success and failure, there's not so much weight on that, right? It's not somebody's dream to create a co-working space or a particular business. It's more of just an avenue of creation for some people, or a way to make money or whatnot. But Cryztal Grid is different in the fact that this is literally the dream that I've had since I was a kid, and my life just presented an opportunity and opened a window for me to follow it and try to see it through.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna jump on there for the failure piece. When you're pursuing something that you love, at least for me, the weight of failure, it just doesn't bother me, because no matter where I'm at in my life, like I'm writing music just because I love to write music. And so so from that failure perspective, if every time, let's say there's a loss of some sort, it's like, well, I'm still doing what I love. So it's not that big of a deal. It's learn, figure out what you did wrong, and then continue to be better. But I'm grounded. I'm grounded in the sense that no matter what happens, like I'm always going to be a musician. I'm always going to create art. I'm always going to write music. And I think that's comforting to have in the back of your head when you're pursuing a project. And that's got to be applicable to athletes. Obviously, injuries are a different type of obstacle for athletes to deal with, or entrepreneurs. If a business fails, then hey, this is what I do. I'm going to start another business. I'm going to start another project. So looking at like failure is not the end all be all. Failure is just that learning opportunity to say, oh, how do we do this better? And then leading into your question about 2020 and moving forward, that failure piece ties directly into it. It's how do you take a failure, or how do you take a global pandemic and turn it into a win, an opportunity to diversify and pursue other options, and take everything that you've learned in the past and compile it to continue to move forward. so Jared was talking about earlier success. A quick aside, we had a phenomenal team. We had a lot of individuals in Dayton that helped us with whether it be video content, the photography. So that's Andrew White, that's Brandon Urig, Tony DeSaro being our manager and making those connections, getting us some pretty impactful shows. The entire Passionate DJ crew for helping us get launched into their network. And we had a lot of people in the beginning that really believed in the project and really helped push us forward. And one, we're extremely grateful for that. And two, that's another unique aspect of Cryztal Grid. We were surrounded by really positive, well-connected individuals that really helped us out. But I think one of your questions was I think the learning piece for moving forward in 2020. One of our main cruxes for our strategy was we were waiting on some sort of external authority to pick up our project and propel us forward. And that's not the way to do it. You have to figure out a way to do it yourself. Otherwise, you're not free. And so at least for the overall goal of being a full-time musician, it's yes, how do you become a full-time musician? How are you also free? Because I want to be a full-time musician, but I also don't want anybody telling me to play a show that I don't want to play, or I don't want to have to be away from the mountains for something that I don't want to be at. And how do you have that financial freedom, and how do you have that control of your project? And that goes back to that diversification aspect. So shifting away from waiting on some sort of external authority to pick you up and move you forward, just erase that from your mindset and being able to say, okay, how am I picking myself up and moving forward? And I think for me personally, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest aspect that I've learned in 2020.
Where does that mindset come from? Is that something that's cultivated through your 20s? Or is that something that's been, because I think what you're touching on is actually, I take notes during all this.
Yeah.
And one of the words I wrote down a while back in this conversation was ownership. It's like when we were talking about 2020 at the beginning of this conversation, you guys have taken ownership. And I think those who are taking ownership are finding success in 2020. And those who are not are waiting for that life raft. And what you're talking about right now is like waiting for that external thing, but not realizing when you rely on that's them telling you what to do, and they have control, which in a sense is taking your freedom. So, which is huge. And I think that's something that I'm learning right now in my late 20s. Is like, no one's here to save me. No one's here to, help me. And at the same point, it's like, I don't really want them to. It doesn't feel good. It feels fake. It feels like I didn't earn it. I carry guilt about it, and it happens on their time, not my time. And so it's like, I'm curious to know for each of you individually is, where does that sense of ownership because for me, it's been cultivated through the shit storms that I've been through. It wasn't necessarily I wasn't brought up that way. So I'm just curious as to where does that ownership come from for you guys?
Well, from the authority perspective, that came from Seth Godin's book, The Icarus Deception. that wasn't a philosophy that we developed. That was a short chapter in one of Seth Godin's book. That it was just one of those light bulb moments of wow. And Seth Godin's such an amazing author, and at least for me, his work just really clicks and digests well in the way that I think about things. But the ownership aspect, and I always think about it as internal competition. Like, I like knowing, and we had talked about this on a hike. Growing up, wrestling was my main sport. That was that was essentially my job. Growing up and being in high school, and there's those individual sports can really teach you. Like if I lose a wrestling match, it's because the other guy beat me, and there's a humbling that happens within that experience. And I think that now, being in my I'm 26, being in my mid 20s, being able to reflect on my life and see how that mentality is played out, it's there's a freedom in that ownership. I don't want to blame somebody else for something that happened to me. Like if I don't accomplish my goal, if I don't accomplish a weekly goal or a daily goal or a monthly goal, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and be like, hey, it's because you didn't do it. Similarly, if I accomplish something that I wanted to accomplish, I can look myself in the mirror and be like, hey, you did it, man. And so that ownership aspect truly equals freedom. It's freedom.
1,000%. I think it was basically like when in confrontation with people, I forget who said it, and I don't remember, but it's basically like when you're carrying the weight of somebody else's problems, or you haven't what am I trying to say? When you haven't forgiven the other person, you're carrying that around, and they have the power over you. And it's the same thing that you're talking about. Is if you bring that in, that gives you freedom of choice over the circumstances that you're in, whether it's an argument with your girlfriend, your health goals, your music goals, your entrepreneurship goals, or whatever. So it's really huge to have that ownership. And one thing that I find fascinating about you guys, if you haven't figured this out yet, is not just the music. It's like the entire approach to what you're doing, the mindset of what you guys are doing is what's most fascinating to me, because it's just so it's in a sense an anomaly to other people that are, again, in your industry. So what I want to ask is a little bit more about the two of you, and because you guys have a relationship, you guys have a business together. One is like, what's the day in the life? I know, Cody, you've tried to account for every second. I don't know. I'm sure Jared's the same way, just knowing a little bit about him. But question number one, I'll keep it very singular focus for Jared, is what's the day in the life or a week in the life of Cryztal Grid? And really thinking from a fan's perspective, I'm asking that question. It's like, what would your fans want to know, but they don't know? What's the behind the scenes that you kind of share about the grittiness? You already touched on, putting in the work. You've already touched on the process is the thing, having some ownership. But what, from a fan's perspective, if I ask you, what's behind the scenes of Cryztal Grid? Do you guys argue and fight?
I mean, not really. No, we yeah. No, we'll just leave it at that. But so going back on like the lifestyle and kind of the mindset. So I forget where I got this from. It might have been from a book or whatnot. We've been reading a lot of books this year, just devouring knowledge. But before I get into like the routine, really what changed the mindset, and basically this was, I started adopting a different mindset about life right as I moved out here to Colorado, because I knew that I had to change. And like I said, I forget where this quote comes from, but essentially it goes, and you have to become the person that's capable of achieving your dreams. And because you haven't achieved your dreams yet, you haven't become that person. So I took a look at my life and my goals and my dreams, and I said, well, what is it that I want? What do I want for my life? And obviously I knew that I wanted to become a full-time musician and basically go all in and try to do that to the best of my ability. But what other avenues can I be looking at? And I looked at my entire life. What are my routines? What am I doing? What are my destructive behaviors? What am I doing well? And I looked at it all from a 30,000 foot view, and I started to rearrange things. And my goal is to mold myself into the person that is capable of achieving my dreams. And once I reach that point, I know that that's when I've optimized myself and have achieved everything that I set out to do. So that kind of like folds into the routine. So that's where waking up super early in the morning, 5:30, 6 a.m., getting your workout in, like the first thing part of the day, eating healthier, and then optimizing your time and what it is that you're doing throughout your entire day. And then trying to get as good a sleep as possible. Like that's literally what my day looks like. Fitting in practice time, producing music as much as possible in the evenings. Yeah, I kind of butchered that, but
so
what do you got?
So we're talking about routine, the behind the scenes routine. Perfect. And so my since businesses started opening back up, the company that I worked for started opening back up. It threw a wrench in my quarantine schedule, but I'm going to reference my quarantine schedule, because moving forward, that is the schedule that I would like to 100% get back to. So step number one, waking up super early. So the alarm is set for 5, but during quarantine, I woke up before 5, 80 to 85% of those days, just out of pure excitement. So I remember I would roll over, I would look at the clock, and it would be like 1:45, and it'd be like, okay, that's too ridiculous. I can't wake up now. But roll over again, 2:30. It's like, no, I can't do it. And then look, if the clock says 3:30, it's like, all right, it's go time. It's good enough. And the first thing that I would do is, before looking at my phone, before looking at any emails, any socials, any messages, I would just throw my phone on the ground, not even look at it. I would just dive into a creative session, because being an artist, that is the most critical time. That's when you're creating your product, your art. That's when you're, and I think there's a really special time in between 4 and 6 a.m. for creative work. You're still, I would pour a cup of coffee and just be able to dive into flow state without having any other distractions. I would create a schedule for my day, and I would only fill out that morning creative session. And then at 6 a.m., okay, now it's how do I restructure my day? And then it's exercise. And in between exercise, breakfast, and shower, it's typically like a 3-hour period. Just being able to get a full workout, full recovery session, and being able to eat a healthy, nutritious protein-packed breakfast, and then being able to shower, and then diving into the rest of my day. So I have, and we had talked about this a little bit on the hike, having your macro level goals and objectives listed out is important. No doubt. You need to be able to think and dream about what you want to accomplish. But I like to, as far as diving into the nitty gritty, I like to look at my daily non-negotiables, because I know that if I accomplish all of those daily non-negotiables every single day, well, in a month, I'm going to be better at every single aspect. So for I have a cool Fox planner that I've gone through several planners over the years, and I found a Fox planner that really works well for the way that I like to structure my day and structure my life. But for the non-negotiables, one, it's production session. So actually creating music, play my saxophone, workouts, mindful eating, learning, meditation, checking in on my finances, doing some financial organization, and there's one other one.
It's super important.
Yeah. Oh, content creation. And it's how do I take a picture? Do I post an Instagram story? Just some sort of content creation. But I know that if I hit all 8 of those every single day, I'm making moves. So I check in on my macro level goals less often, because those always exist. Those are always floating around. Those are the goals that I daydream about. But if I'm always just sitting about the 5-year plan, well, I'm not going to get there. So I really like to dive into that micro level perspective, and it's what am I going to do today so that I'm better tomorrow? And then if I'm better tomorrow, I'm better a week from now. And if I'm better a week from now, I'm better a month from now. And so that's definitely how I like to look at it. Not also, that's 8 goals. That's 8 wins. I get to finish the day, look at those check marks and be like, I won 8 times. Look at that. Like I'm making moves. And then towards the end of the night, being able to put the phone away, shut off, hang out with my girlfriend and relax. That's also that additional important aspect. So I kind of jumped all over the place there, but in my ideal life, my ideal schedule, that's how my day is structured.
I think
that's what I was trying to say.
What he said.
What he said. Follow that.
That's hilarious. Well, I think it's exactly, if you put those two together, Jared, because it's like, who do I want to become? And I think, Cody, what you're saying there is like, here are my 8 non-negotiable steps that I'm doing, and I know I'm making progress if I'm hitting these, and these are the things that I want to be doing anyways. So, I mean, it's a win-win, right? How do I structure my life? It seems this like great way of reflecting, like, hey, what do I want? Stepping back, 30,000 foot view, taking myself out of the situation for a minute, looking at what I can do, and then what can I do on a daily basis that I want to enjoy, and I know it's going to progress me towards these macro goals. So I think that's great. And I love that so much. As we kind of wrap up here, what is Cryztal Grid up to, and how can the people get involved with you guys? Whether that's signing up for an email newsletter, following you on YouTube, Instagram. So tell me what you guys are up to next, or that people can get involved with, and then how they get involved.
Yeah, so as of today, Friday, August 21st, we have a brand new track dropping with our homies Cryztal and Seth Sky. The track name is Fighting with Fire. So whenever this podcast is released, definitely go check out that tune. We're really excited to finally launch that one. But overall, just connect with us on socials. Connect with us on socials from our Cryztal Grid page, but then also connect with our personal pages as well, because we're both working on side hustles and building our personal brands. So make sure to connect with us as individuals, connect with us as Cryztal Grid, and continue to watch everything that we're doing, because we're expanding our creative and entrepreneurial work towards several different niches. Like Jared said, the meditation, ambient music. If that's for you, like we have it. I started Summit One, a lo-fi project. If you like chill instrumental beats, boom, we have something for you. If you like rage into dubstep, we got you covered. So connect with us and just check out what we're doing. And if what we're doing is appealing to you and you enjoy it, follow us. Hit us up on the DMs, and we'd love to talk. And especially now that we're moving towards the holistic artistic living aspect, for people that have questions about how we're accomplishing our goals, how we're running marathons, climbing mountains, hit us up, because we're learning the process as we go, and we have some wins, we have some losses. Like, talk to us and share your ideas. We'd love to learn from you as well.
I love it. We're Cryztal Grid is on the layout there. What are you guys' personal Instagrams? That's where you guys connect, right?
Yeah, mine's at Cody_Christensen, but then we tag our personal Instagram pages into our pictures. So you can just tap on a Cryztal Grid picture as well.
Boom. People can find it. The smart people that are listening to this, the million people. As far as like summing up everything else, what would be one piece of advice, or to a young entrepreneur, to a young artist, somebody who's starting? How do we put a pretty bow on all this? What would be your one thing? You got one line to share with everybody. What would you share?
Mine will probably be different than yours. Let me go. Yeah. So, holistic picture here. It's never too late to follow your dreams. Mm. And I feel like I'm a testament to that statement. Obviously I'm still young, but I'm not the youngest. And I gave up on my dream to go to college because I thought I needed to make money. Thought I needed to become the status quo. A lot of parental guidance led me that way. And I gave up on my passion for a decade. But the universe said, no, dude, like, you gotta keep going. Like that's what you want to be and that's what you want to do. So yeah, that's my piece of advice.
Never gets old. I love that piece of advice. It's such a great reminder. Wake up in the morning and be like, keep going, buddy. Keep going.
Yeah.
What about you, Cody?
Yeah, so my one-liner is never stop climbing. And so whether that's literal or metaphorical mountains, never stop climbing, never stop hustling. And when you lose, don't even care. Learn. Because you're gonna win. You're gonna win eventually. And you're probably potentially gonna lose more than you win. So start finding joy in that losing process, and don't think about it as a failure. Think about it as you took your shot, you missed the shot. Well, gear up and take another shot. So just never stop hustling, never stop grinding. When I think back to, I've been producing music for almost 6 years at this point. I started when I was 20. I could have done it for a year or 2 years, and just stopped. You know, it just takes a long time to develop your craft and develop your sound, and just never stop climbing.
I love it. You guys are awesome. Until we can do this again, friends, both the climbing and the podcast, I appreciate you guys coming on. I honestly, I wish we had more time. I wish we could do this in person. I wish we had, the big podcast for you, but we're doing the best we can. So I appreciate you guys coming on. Appreciate you dropping some knowledge and throwing out some crazy questions. You guys did a great job. So until next time, friends, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Cale.
Thanks, Cale.